Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning in some places, and good evening potentially for some of you out there. Welcome to the movement. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to Authentara. Authentara is an organization that's transforming leadership by helping people lead with purpose, courage, and real execution, not performance. Over the next 8 weeks, I want to share with you the research insights that led me to write Pirate Jokes Aren't Funny. I want to share with you about the book, but the book isn't about jokes, but I did tell them. I didn't tell jokes because I was trying to hide behind them. I told them to bond. You see, jokes were a tactic, a burst of serotonin, and a neurotransmitter that allowed the audience to connect with me and me to connect with the audience, a way to bring the room with me before I really said anything real. But the pirate, that was identity. It was armor. We'll talk about it a little bit more as the day goes forward, but it was something I built to survive in rooms that weren't built for me. Eventually, I had to ask myself, what would it look like to lead without a costume, to lead without a mask, to lead without that hat that allowed me to say and do things that weren't truly me? That's the question that started the Authentara blueprint. Thank you for joining us today. So here's where we're headed today. We'll start with the Authentara blueprint and zoom in on one of its most essential components, inner clarity. Now, I'm not here to walk you through another leadership framework where we list some values and shake our head in agreement. Inner clarity goes deeper than that. It's about what happens when you stop performing, when you stop posturing, and start asking the hard questions that most leaders avoid, like, why am I leading this way? What am I carrying that's leading me instead? We'll talk more a little bit about what the challenge of leadership is here in the quantum era of leadership, where change is constant, pressure is personal, and why today's leadership can't be binary. It has to be quantum, human, paradoxical, and present. Then we'll introduce you to one powerful practice that you can take with you. You can share with your team, a question that resets your leadership in the moment and over time changes the way that you show up. This today and the next 7 weeks won't be theory. It'll be the beginning of unlearning the noise and leading from what's real. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about something about leaders who lead when they don't know why they lead. Those are the types of leaders that create cultures that don't work for anyone. I've put on the right-hand side there some of the impact that we're all feeling from bad bosses. But this isn't just about bad bosses, it's about systems that reward performance over purpose and build leadership on noise, not clarity. You know what's happening out there, and some of those things on the right-hand side probably are close to you. I'm fortunate because when I coach, I meet people like Carlos. He's a program lead at a social impact startup, and he told me that he was hired for mission-driven work. Well, then when he got there, he became buried under quarterly targets, passion ignored, impact erased. I told him, the real question isn't, do you know how you show up? Because that feels a little bit superficial and external. It's really about, do you know why you're showing up this way? And what are you going to do about it? Talking through it with him, I felt the betrayal that he talked about. They sold me on purpose and then they handed me profit goals. I could feel his cynicism and his disengagement as he shared with me that he didn't really see the point in it. But really, that is the choice point. We can stay at that performative level, or we can try to lead with clarity. When leaders practice inner clarity, they move from reactivity to direction, from compliance to alignment. When followers practice it, they move from resentment to reframing. They will go from waiting to owning, and they show up with confidence, with that desire, even in a flawed system. And when both the leader and the follower seek inner clarity and they do the work to get there, they build something rooted in truth, not just tasks. What I see in our current workplace, honestly, is fake. There's a lot of fake out there, and that's the cost. $8.8 trillion. When leadership becomes performance, people check out. When words don't match through, well, trust breaks. So before we move into the fix, let's get honest about what's really missing. And that's tough for some organizations to say. But as Cheryl Lynn puts it in the song To Be Real, what you find, what you feel, what you know to be real. And that's what our employees and that's what the workforce is feeling. They're not feeling the real. But real leadership, that's a solution. And that's the next piece. It starts first with truth and not polish. If you saw some of the advertisements for this webinar, you might have seen that I promised you a truth bomb. So I want to share with you that truth bomb now before we look deeper into the solution. And here it is. These are the things that people don't say out loud, right? But ultimately, this is the type of thing that we deal with. Most leaders don't know why they lead. I'm going to say that again. Most leaders don't know why they lead. They only know how they're expected to behave. Today, leadership kind of feels like, well, the clone wars for me, right? This is after the clones went bad and before they went good again, somewhere in there. It's this trap of performative leadership. We copy what we've seen, we chase approval, and we end up leading in ways that aren't even aligned with who we are. Inner clarity isn't about being confident, it's about being clear on what drives you, how you've grown, what matters now, and what you're no longer willing to fake. Daniel Goleman did a great job of giving us emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence was great because it allowed us to start to think about regulating our emotions. But with the blueprint, with inner clarity, it isn't just about knowing your score or your color type or the letter combination that you are from an external evaluation or assessment. It's about confronting your own motives, your experiences, and leading from what's real. You see, the quantum era, and I'll keep referencing it, the quantum era demands more than what we've been giving our workforce today. In Pirate Jokes Aren't Funny, my book that will be available in fall, published by Amplified Publish Group, I talk a lot about how the joke itself wasn't a mask. It wasn't put out to be in front of people and get in between me and the audience. The pirate, however, was something that I had built an identity on. Ever since my childhood, I had built the identity to survive in spaces that rewarded sameness. What we're looking at is the blueprint, and the blueprint allows us to replace performance with practice. Because when you start living in a mask or a costume, when your armor becomes your leadership style, you start to lose the room. The practice itself is built on research that tells us that here's 4 attributes and here's 4 primary behaviors that make the most hay for an authentic leader. The attributes like inner clarity and guiding principles anchor who you are. The behaviors like compassionate leadership and aligned execution shape how others experience you. Attributes without behaviors, well, you're reflective, but your reflection's invisible. Behaviors without attributes, you're polished, but you're hollow. When they work together, that's where trust, energy, and accountability really do take root. The blueprint works at every level to give organizations, individuals, and teams benefits. Individuals gain identity, teams gain language, organizations gain coherence. We're not asking you to fake it till you make it. We're inviting you to practice it until you lead it. And that's what we want to help leaders do. We really want to help you master the practice, even when it's uncomfortable. But it does take courage because today in most systems, sameness is still rewarded. But in the real world, we know intentional difference is what changes the environment. I want to tell you a little bit about Toni, because this is the definition around inner clarity. And during the certification program, we have our first one starting on July 22nd. During the certification program, we really do go a lot deeper on understanding the depth of the definition. And we start to look at some of these case studies of individuals that I've had the benefit of working with and learning from. Toni, it was when I met her, she was, I'll honestly tell you, she was holding it together, but only barely, right? She was a project manager juggling a global launch of new products, child's therapy schedule, aging parents who would text her at 10 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock at night. I can appreciate that. Most days she feels like a project manager for everyone else's emergencies. Every urgent pivot at work was just one more thing that dropped on top of her already strained capacity. As we met and we talked, she talked to me about how, yep, she still showed up, she still performed, but she felt guilty about things and not enough time here, and balls were dropping there. And then there was the resentment that she was building up, and she didn't really know how to say it out loud, but she wanted to understand, why am I doing this like this? We spend time with inner clarity because that's where inner clarity steps in. It's not a mindset, it's a practice, a moment to moment choice to interrogate your reactions, uncover what's driving them, and then lead from something real. Toni wasn't struggling with dynamic changes and how to show agility. She was struggling with alignment and how to show agility. She didn't need another performance review. She didn't need a performance plan, wink, wink. She needed to hear why her work still mattered to her and to her team. So we got Toni to ask her boss to start finding ways that they could align around what motivated her. And when Toni's boss started sharing the why behind shifting priorities and how her team was part of the proposed solution, it opened a lane for truth, not complaints, not not complaining, as we all know we like to do, but really a lane for clarity, because Toni could finally reframe, reprioritize, and respond based upon something that she knew to be true. Inner clarity isn't about managing time; it's about recovering meaning. Not it's not the 1 minute manager. It's not the get rich quick and 5 easy steps, because inner clarity doesn't fix the chaos. It really just changes who we are on the inside. So I'm not going to spend too much time reading this screen to you right here, right? Because the data doesn't just support inner clarity, it demands it. And these numbers don't just call for more training, they prove that leaders without inner clarity cannot lead through disruption. And teams can't thrive without direction rooted in purpose, not performance. As I start to think about what the blueprint is and how inner clarity can help, I want to again get us to agree that inner clarity, as I've defined it for you, isn't a mindset, it's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger with use. When we practice it, we sharpen. And when we sharpen ourselves, we can get discernment in the noise. We can have emotional steadiness without shutting down. We're able to reframe things that turns weight into direction. In my forthcoming book of Pirate Jokes Aren't Funny, I write about how I became a pirate leader, not because I wanted to, but because I felt like I had to. Growing up as the only other in a sea of sameness in rural Iowa shaped an identity that could shield me. It got me through the door, but at a cost. Inner clarity gave me a way out. It allowed me to take that mask off. It helped me name what I'd built to survive and choose what I wanted to lead with instead. And that's not just personal work, that's leadership work. Because whether you're running a team or just trying to lead yourself through another Tuesday, inner clarity provides the metal and the motion. Leaders of self gain control without clenching. Leaders of others lead with truth, not armor. Leaders of organizations can scale clarity, not chaos. And that changes everything. This isn't just about reflective work, it's about executionable work. And that's what we practice and train for using inner clarity in the Authentic Leader certification. But I do want to say that we wanted to share with you as well, not just how inner clarity can address these numbers, but we wanted to share with you a practice. But I'm going to implore you right now, again with another musical reference. I don't want to wait in vain. And I'm going to ask you to do the same. If you're waiting for the system to get better or to get more honest or to start to see you and recognize you before you start showing up differently, don't. This is really your move now. So here's the practice, right? This is what we've been talking about, is that we have actual practices, and this is just the tip of the iceberg when we start to think about inner clarity. But as you go out this week and you're thinking about your leadership style and who you are as a leader, I want you to think about this one question: where am I reacting instead of reflecting? It's simple, but not easy. Because most of us were taught to lead by responding fast, moving quickly, solving immediately, but speed does not equal clarity. Reaction isn't the same as direction. So this week, pause. When you're in that moment, before you send the email, before you give the feedback, before you jump into the meeting, before you start saying things when you're just thinking them, ask yourself, am I reflecting or am I reacting? Am I leading from pressure or am I leading from purpose? You see, what we do know is that this is just the beginning of seeking inner clarity as a leader, but the question alone can shift how you show up. It can save a conversation, redirect your energy, or keep you from making a decision that feels off an hour later. Inner clarity isn't about being perfect. It's about being present with who you are and how you lead on purpose. So carry that question with you this week. Let it work on you. And if you're willing, say it out loud. Tell your team. Because when a leader models reflection over reaction, it creates space for everyone to show up more honestly. You don't need to fix everything. You just need to notice in that moment and in that space and choose to lead differently. Inner clarity is just one piece of the blueprint, but it's the one we start with for a reason, right? We start with it because it's where everything changes. It's the work beneath the work. Over the next 7 weeks, I'll walk through the rest of the blueprint. I hope you'll be there with me because the full system adds to the value of what real leadership can look like. If this hit home for you, I hope you'll share it, let other people know about it, and join me again Tuesday. Oh, by the way, I want to tell you about Carlos. Carlos and his manager now map every KPI from the quarterly report back to the mission, and they talk about it every Monday during their one-to-one update. Carlos feels renewed in his role and his company because the why matters. Clearly seeing and saying what you want from the role is demonstrating inner clarity. The work that Carlos and his manager did, it's not performative, it's a signal. It's done on purpose. So think about how inner clarity can help you. And remember, pause. If you're willing to go deeper, if you want to go deeper, we have a certification starting July 22nd. You can direct message me or contact me at any point. But I want to leave you with this one last line. Emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds, because that's what inner clarity is. It's the moment you stop following scripts. It's the moment you start freeing your mind. It's not about perfection, it's about presence and permission. Permission to lead from who you are, not who you think you're supposed to be. If something landed for you today, I'd love to hear about it. Drop a takeaway question or a question in the chat for me. We have a couple minutes here. I'd love to be able to address anything I can. But more than anything, help me get the word out about Authentara. Follow us if you can on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on X. I'd really appreciate it. We're trying to get the word out because we're trying to change the way in which leadership is developed. We're democratizing leadership. And like I said, if you're ready to lead without that mask, next Tuesday, 1:05 p.m. Central Time and July 22nd, that's what they're all about. We'll continue to pull back the curtain on what leadership can actually look like as we leave this land of Oz. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for being real. Make today